Welcome back, my friends, for another fun reloading video. Today we're continuing our side quest down into the world of 38 Special with large pistol primers. And you're thinking, but wait, we haven't seen the results of the first loading. Where's all that at? Don't worry, we're about to jump right into that before we continue onward with our quest. And here we are at our brass from the last group of firings. We made it to the range, we got some chronograph data and some targets to look at here. But first we'll just take a look and recall that we were testing 2.9 grains, 3.1 and 3.3 grains of 700X. We can see here from all 10 rounds from each of our 3 charges, all of our primers are still nice and rounded. No cratering at all between either our LCR with these 5 up here or the GP100 with these 5 down here. So although we're not seeing any sort of pressure on our primers, we're going to take a look at our chronograph data and our target here and decide what to do with today's loading once we decide what those are. Our first group was 2.9 grains of 700X with our Ruger LCR. We had an average velocity of 648. We had an extreme spread of 26 and standard deviation of 10. This is pretty good for an 1 7/8 barrel. Very consistent burning, as we can see. Nice repeatable velocity. And let's take a look at our target from about 15 yards here. Here's a look at our target, and we can see this is not a great group at all using the LCR. But again, this was the first shots of the day with that gun. Maybe I should have brought some to warm up with, but here are the first 5. This is probably a 5-inch group. There was one right off the page here on the cardboard, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was our group with the LCR. Our second 5 shots with the LCR were at 3.1 grains. We had an average 672. Extreme spread 25, standard deviation 8 feet per second. Here's a look at our brass, still rounded around the edge, still no cratering, still very low pressure. A look at our target. This is probably one of our better groups out of the LCR for the day. Here we had 5 shots in about, I would say 2 inches, aiming at this dot here from about 15 yards. Lastly, at 3.3 grains, we had an average of 709 feet per second. Our extreme spread seemed to open up a bit to 43 and standard deviation of 16, doubling our last group at 3.1 there. And with a look at our target, we can see we opened up quite a bit between the sides of the first 2 groups. Here's a good one, here's a pretty bad one there, and here we are in the middle. This is all probably just my own shooting, which we all know is pretty horrible. Also, combining this with our velocity data, our best looking group with the best numbers, seems like we need to confirm this test here, which we might do. We'll keep that in mind moving forward today. So as previously mentioned, the bottom rows here are all out of the 4-inch GP100, same flat primers throughout, nothing to look at here, so let's not worry about any of that. Our first group with 2.9 grains, we had an average of 693, extreme spread at 16, and standard deviation of 6 feet per second. That's some pretty good numbers there for a handgun, I'll tell you what. Looking at our group size here, well, we only have 3 of them on the page, but the other 2 were just over here, so we had 5 of them within about 1.5 inches, I would say. Roughly the size of this circle, just off the page because I suck. Regardless, pretty good looking group, pretty good numbers from the chronograph. Next up was 3.1 grains with the GP100, average 737, extreme spread 32, which doubled between our charges there, and the SD also doubled from 6 to 12. So looks like while we did gain about 40 feet per second, our spreads and deviations are starting to open up as well. And if those numbers somehow correlate to group size, this also opened up our group a little bit. But again, I would say I'm more to blame than the ammo. It's probably more accurate than I can ever be. But with today's numbers and today's group, we can see that it's not quite as good as our first one here. Lastly, at 3.3 grains in the 4-inch GP100, 773 feet per second average, extreme spread of 44, and SD of 16. Again, a little bit more velocity, roughly 30 feet per second higher, but at the cost of larger spreads and deviations there. But if we take a look at our group, it looks like I was able to actually perform better and keep them on the paper. So that's probably about an inch, inch and a quarter. So although we had some of the best groups, some of our numbers on the chronograph were also some of the worst of the day. So if we look at both of the firearms together, our 2.9 grain charge, we had about a 40 to 50 foot per second gain with our 4-inch barrel on the first charge. Second charge, we gained another roughly 50 to 60 feet per second, so a larger spread there, but also our actual spreads increased. And then finally, our maximum charge we tested at 3.3, we gained roughly 60 feet per second between our two barrel lengths. They both had the highest spreads of the day and the exact same deviation, which I thought was very fascinating. So if we back out and look at our entire target, here's our first charge, second charge, and our third charge. I mentioned that this was probably one of our best groups with the LCR, and we had roughly an exact same size group with the GP100. But our last charge here, it seems like if I do my part, we can achieve some very nice accuracy. So I think since they had the exact same chronograph numbers, it looks like I just need to be able to do my part here. And we didn't have any pressure, so today we're going to increase our charge here and see if we can squeeze any more velocity out of this slightly larger barrel, and if I can get my own crap together and learn how to shoot. So with all that being said, we noticed in the last video the Lee manual went up to 3.4 grains as a maximum, and Hornady actually listed their XTP with a maximum of 3.7 grains. So today we're going to be testing 3.4 and 3.6 grains here, and we're going to see how these react between the two barrels. So once again, we're going to be using 700X. You can see it's got its little white dots. They probably just couldn't call it white dot, although red dot does have little red dots, and I'm pretty sure green dot does have little green dots in it. This would have been Hodgdon white dot. But we're gonna get our first charge of 3.4 grains going and see what we're working with here. Here we are with our first charge. Let's just see what kind of case fill we're working with here, which should be absolutely nothing. Yeah, we can't even see it. Here, let's get up in it. Okay, so it's way down in there. It's pretty hard to get the lighting into it, but you can see the case next to it is empty, and this one, 3.4 grains doesn't take up a whole lot of space, so we've got plenty of room to work with. However, you need to be careful because this could easily be double charged. So that's why we're going to do all 10 of them here and then do our customary drive-by and check them all at once. Using our 0.5 cc scoop, I think, one scoop gets us right over it, so I need to back off a little bit. Perfect. Yeah, girl. Yeah, girl. Okay, good stuff. And also, in one of the last 357 Magnum videos, someone was like, hey man, if you turn the little pan tray around, it'd be less awkward. And I just gave some smart aleck comment like, yeah, I'm always awkward. Well, thank you for the tip. It is indeed way less awkward, and I'm just a dummy. I think I knocked it off once and just threw it back on there, but yes, great tip. Keep your pan turned this way your trickler isn't hitting this thing, and Okay, so we actually have our first 10 done. Now we can see the powder between all of our cases. They all look good and healthily charged. They're pretty even. So let's get them seated here and see what they look like. All right, we're here doing our 3.6 grain charges. And it looks like our 0.5 cc scoop is going to give us almost what we need. I just need to make sure it's not a big heaping scoop. Knock some of those out, and we'll be pretty close here. to the charge we need, and then just trickle up the very last bit. I need to get a real set of the scoops. I think it's like 10 bucks for all the scoops you could imagine and all the sizes. And it would get you really close for doing load development or loading in the field to know, what volume of scoop equals what grain charge. So you can kind of reload a little more primitively if you need to. So 3.6, once again, is still a tenth under the Hornady maximum charge. So that's good. If we still don't see any pressure, we might work up. But this brass is already on its last leg. So I don't want to beat it up too hard. I'm just kind of seeing, what we can do with this charge. And then later compare it using small primers. And, test some of those fun things. All right, I got a few done here, a couple more to go. I'll let you know when we're seating them if anything's happening. Okay, we've got them all poured out there, and that is 3.6 grains. Very, very nice. Let's get on to seating them. So I do like a nice generous crimp, but these aren't magnum loads, so we're probably not going to be afraid of any sort of setback during recoil. However, again, just a nice solid crimp to make sure that that bell was closed up, and we should be good to go. And now that we're all crimped up, I went ahead and did the old plunk test and threw a few of them at random into the cylinder of my weapon there, and they appeared to fall right in and right out. So we're all good in crimp zone. Our next episode, we're going to come back from the range with our results again, evaluate, and go from there. We might pick a new powder, we might pick a new bullet, who knows? We still have another 900 of these to test, so plenty of options to go through here. If you like this sort of content, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. You can also join the Dummy Round compound and get a channel membership if you're into that sort of stuff. You can also check me out over on patreon.com/dummyround. There are no special perks or anything. We can just sort of think of this like a tip jug, or if you want to toss anything towards the component budget, that is greatly appreciated but not expected one bit. So thanks for hanging out, guys. We will see you in the next video. Have a good one.